Hi guys, I'm Luke Carr and welcome to my new YouTube channel TD3LC, something I've been working on for a little while now, so I'm happy to finally launch it. I'm going to be bringing you NFL content, Madden 20 gameplay. Even if you're not a massive fan of American football, if you could like and subscribe to the channel to help it grow, that'd be massively appreciated. And so without further ado, let's get into it. My first video is going to be an NFL mock draft.
Now I'm on the outside.
That being said, the first pick of the 2020 NFL draft, with Cincinnati Bengals on the clock, is Joe Burrow. And this will come as no surprise to any NFL fan really. He's been at the top of all of the NFL mock drafts. He's a quality player. In 2019, his stats were unreal at LSU, winning the college football championship, and he's rushed for just under 400 yards respectively in each of his last two seasons, which could be important going to Cincinnati with the third ranked worst O-line in 2019. But his ability to read a defense and fit balls into tight windows has really increased his pass to touchdown ratio in 2019. Although at times it seems the receiver's not open, he had one of the lowest interceptable pass percentages in 2019. And he is the all-round quarterback of the draft with good mental toughness. He couldn't start at Ohio State, transferred, worked his way to a starting quarterback ability, and he performed really well for LSU, and I think he is a franchise quarterback for many years to come. The only question over Joe Burrow is his arm strength, because it is a bit lacking, but as everyone else is right to say, Tom Brady's managed in the league for God knows how many years now, so it's 20 years now in the league with not a massive arm, and look how successful he's been, so I can't see that being a problem. Joe Burrow, potential Hall of Famer. This with the second pick, the Washington Redskins take Chase Young, defensive end from Ohio State. I think he really is a generational talent and he can turn their franchise around. There have been lots of questions over whether the Redskins are going to trade back for extra picks, because they've traded Quinton Dunbar and Josh Norman, their cornerbacks, away, and replaced them with not as quality cornerbacks. However, I think he's a quality addition and he could potentially hide their secondary problems by putting more pressure on quarterbacks and forcing more quarterback hurries. He is a complete freak of nature. Having said that, he's 6'5" and 270 pounds, and yet he still covers all over the field like a linebacker with his pace and mobility. And he recorded some absolutely incredible stats at Ohio State in his 34 games, making 98 tackles, with 40.5 of them being for loss and 30.5 sacks during that time. An absolute sack machine. He set the single season sack record at Ohio State with 16 in 2019. And he also forced 9 fumbles, and 7 of them coming in his 2019 season just before entering the draft. And it's his versatility at the line of scrimmage that wins him so many contests. He's got the power with the bull rush, or he's got his swim move to get around the offensive tackles and pressure the quarterback so much. The only question has been asked of him is as the game progresses and he gets a little bit tired or a little bit lazy, he gives clear tells if he's dropping back into coverage or if he's doing something to normal because all of the weight's on his back foot. But as other people have brought up, with a edge rusher as dominant as him, why would you want to play him in coverage very often? And the answer is you wouldn't. For the third pick of the draft, I've got Miami Dolphins trading up with the Detroit Lions to go and get their man Tua Tagovailoa. A great player coming from Nick Saban's offense at Alabama. He threw 77 touchdowns and only 11 interceptions. But as everyone knows, the real question around Tua is durability and his health. Is he going to last a whole season taking NFL hits from defensive ends and defensive tackles? That hip injury ended Bo Jackson's career, and he's had major surgery, and it caused him to miss a lot of football. So the question is, are the Miami Dolphins going to want him as their franchise quarterback moving forward with all of these health issues? I think yes. I think also Miami will move up to 3 to get him to make sure that the Chargers can't take him. And it's a lucrative trade for Detroit as well, because they'll get the 5th pick and the 26th pick of the draft, and this is draft capital that the Chargers simply just don't have. So for me, I think it's a good pick for Miami. He's a good fit for their offensive scheme under Brian Flores, but we'll see what happens on that front. Okay, so we've gone for a slight little change of camera angle. I thought I'd use the light a bit better. So for number 4, I've got New York Giants taking Isaiah Simmons, linebacker come safety coming out of Clemson. I think he's a really versatile player, and he fills a massive gap that the Giants have got right now at linebacker. He's very well-rounded play. He had 4 or 5 interceptions at his time at Clemson, the same amount of forced fumbles, and he also plays as a quarterback spy against a lot more mobile quarterbacks because he has that elite speed. I think he ran a 4.39 at the combine, and yeah, he's a really well-rounded player and potentially a Pro Bowl talent. It's definitely a case of the Giants taking the best player available because they have other holes on the team, particularly at tackle on the offensive line to protect Daniel Jones. But I think Simmons would be a real addition to the defense and that stops so many sides scoring points on them. With the 5th pick that Detroit Lions have traded back for, I'm giving them Jeffrey Okudah, cornerback from Ohio State. He's a great cornerback who plays extremely well in man coverage and he sticks to receivers like glue. He's got great speed to be able to stick with them the whole route. And in his junior year especially, he played more in zone defense and he really improved, picking up 3 interceptions. He was part of this Ohio State defense, which was the top-ranked defense of all the college football teams in 2019. And the Detroit Lions have just traded away Darius Slay and replaced him with Desmond Trufant, cornerback from the Atlanta Falcons, which I think is a bit of a downgrade. But Jeffrey Okudah bringing some youthfulness into the Detroit Lions secondary. I think he definitely could be a franchise changer for years to come. For the 6th pick of the NFL draft, I think the LA Chargers will draft Justin Herbert, quarterback from Oregon. He's had good production at Oregon, especially during his junior and his senior year, threw around 90 touchdowns to only 23 interceptions. However, these 23 interceptions are a massive concern for NFL scouts. He's been widely labelled as second rate behind Tua Tagovailoa for the whole draft, which baffles me slightly, but this hurriedness to throw away the ball and anticipating more pressure than there often is a big concern, as he needs to have the poise to be an NFL franchise quarterback. However, I think under an NFL coach and a bit more time, a bit more learning defenses, and also good receivers like Keenan Allen, I think it will help him massively, and I think he will go on to have good production at the LA Chargers. The 7th pick of the NFL draft, with Carolina Panthers on the clock, select Derek Brown, defensive tackle from Auburn. I think he's a good scheme fit because the Panthers play a 4-3 scheme, and I think Derek Brown would line up well at nose tackle with his massive size, 6'5", 320 pounds. Absolute massive freak of nature, and his bull rush is incredible. The power to go straight through people, resulting in 15 sacks, I think, at Auburn and multiple tackles for loss. The only question is, when he gets to the next level, is his technique going to be good enough to go round people or get off double teams, because he relies a bit too much on his bull rush, straight power ability at the moment at college level. But with a good D-line coach, who knows, he could become one of the best defensive tackles. At number 8, I have the Arizona Cardinals taking Jedrick Wills Jr., offensive tackle from Alabama. I think this would be a great addition for Arizona with their horizontal run scheme. A lot of runs outside the numbers, and Jedrick Wills fits this perfectly with his athleticism. He is really a well-rounded athlete, great vertical and broad jump, and a good speed that he runs as well. He was part of the Alabama offensive line that was ranked 3rd overall in college football by PFF rankings, and he has the ability to switch sides, switch from right to left tackle. So I think this is really versatile and shores up an otherwise weak Cardinals O-line.
My guy pretty like a girl, and he got 5 stories to tell. See both sides like Chanel, see on both sides like Chanel.
Moving on, at number 9 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think Javon Kinlaw will be drafted there, the defensive tackle from the University of South Carolina. He's a massive 6'6" and 324 pounds, and he forced loads of fumbles and bull rushed the hell out of loads of offensive linemen. Again, similar to the mould of Derek Brown. He's a big guy who relies too often on his brute strength and size, though, and I think an NFL coach will want to do some work with him to get off his double teams quicker, and also keep his pad height low as the game progresses, as he tires. But for a D-line that's lost Calais Campbell and Yannick Ngakoue, who will probably be leaving, I think Javon Kinlaw would definitely strengthen that Jaguars D-line. The 10th pick of the NFL draft, I think Tampa Bay Buccaneers will trade up with the Cleveland Browns. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will trade up for the 10th pick in return for Cleveland receiving 14, 76 and 139. Because I think they're going to take Mekhi Becton, the offensive tackle. DeMar Dotson is yet to sign a new contract with the Buccaneers, and I don't think he's going to. He's getting on with his age. and to really solidify that line to try and protect Tom Brady. You know, they've got Ryan Jensen and Ali Marpet, but getting that right tackle to really sort out their O-line and give the Buccaneers a chance of getting success with Brady in his last couple of years before retiring. Again, a question around Becton is his weight. It's generally fluctuated quite a lot through college. Can he maintain a weight in order for the coaches to get him playing a certain style instead of keep going up and down and different and having different mobility and agility year on year? I'm projecting an Atlanta Falcons trade up with the New York Jets into the 11th spot, and the New York Jets will receive the 16th, 78th and 143rd picks in this draft. I think the Falcons are going to select CJ Henderson out of University of Florida. He's clearly the second best cornerback in this draft class behind Jeffrey Okudah, and during his time at Florida he had 20 pass breakups and 6 interceptions. His man press skills are excellent. He covers all the routes and he has top tier speed to be able to keep up with the quickest receivers. The questions surrounding CJ Henderson has been his tackling. It looks lackluster at times, and his effort in the run support is also leaves a bit to be desired. But overall, I think this would be a great pick to replace Desmond Trufant that they had to release due to cap constraints. Number 12, and the Las Vegas Raiders select CeeDee Lamb from the Oklahoma Sooners. CeeDee Lamb's route running and catching is absolutely off the chart. He's only dropped 5 passes of 67 targets in 2019, and he scored over 30 touchdowns for the Sooners. His route tree is unbelievable, and the way that he creates space and separates from defenders is also amazing with his footwork. The question is, does he have that top tier speed compared to people like Henry Ruggs? Maybe not, but his run after catch ability is still there, and as I said, his catch and route ability to create space is unrivaled in this draft, and I think the Las Vegas Raiders need to look to add a good solid third receiver along with Williams and Renfrow. The 13th pick of the 2020 draft belongs to the 49ers after they traded away DeForest Buckner for the first rounder from Indianapolis Colts. I think the 49ers are going to draft Jerry Jeudy. He's a great route runner. He's got great football IQ, knows when to go past the defender, when to sit and wait for the ball to come. And he's also got good speed, ran a 4.45 40-yard dash at the combine. The question is he going to be a good scheme fit with the 49ers? Because he's 2 inches taller than Marquise Goodwin. He's got 5 or 6 kilograms on him. But the 49ers really need an X receiver to complement Goodwin's speed at Z receiver. I think he'll be okay with it. I think that Jerry Jeudy's route running ability will be fine to play him at X receiver. But we'll see what happens with that one. They may just need to... they run it generally when they're in the red zone anyway, but the contested catch situation has been a question mark around Jerry Jeudy. Does he have the physicality to go up and win the ball? But overall, I think he's a good scheme fit for the 49ers. The 14th pick of the draft is from the Cleveland Browns after trading down with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I believe they'll draft Andrew Thomas, left tackle out of Georgia Bulldogs, as there's a gaping hole there in their offensive line. Thomas was part of the second best O-line in college football in 2019, and he joins Cleveland Browns, who have the 9th worst offensive line in the NFL. The Browns have just signed right tackle Jack Conklin, but also Thomas provides versatility as he played right tackle in his freshman year. He's a great player with great power and pancake ability, which was demonstrated in his Notre Dame tape from 2019. However, on screen plays and against wider set defensive ends, in nickel sets or dime sets, he struggles because his hip movement is quite jerky and his feet aren't as fluid as other tackles in the draft. At 15, I have the Denver Broncos drafting Henry Ruggs III out of Alabama, another product from Nick Saban's production line there. He would slot in perfectly at Z receiver because they already have Cortland Sutton there, the tall X receiver. But I think Henry Ruggs' durability has been questioned due to his size. He's quite slight and he's quite short for a receiver. But still, I think his pace and his ability to extend plays with his run after catch ability will more than be sufficient in the NFL. And his out and out pace is unquestionable, similar to that of Tyreek Hill. And speaking of Tyreek Hill, who's also a good returner, Ruggs featured a lot on special teams at Alabama and returned for over 500 yards in total, averaging over 20 per return, and he finished with over 20 touchdowns at Alabama simply because a lot of the time he would run deep routes and they have a good receiver core there, and he would burn lots of defenders with that top tier speed. At number 16, I'm predicting another wide receiver taking off the ball nice and early. This time, Justin Jefferson to the New York Jets, where they traded down in that situation with the Atlanta Falcons. Robbie Anderson was traded away to the Panthers, and obviously this provides the Jets with more draft capital, but at the same time it takes away Sam Darnold's number one target from 2019. I think that Justin Jefferson is a good replacement. He's got good pace, ran a 4.43 at the combine. He's a good route runner and a pass catcher. He's a good all-round wide receiver, and his ability in open field is almost unique in this draft class to make people miss. You look at the college football championship game against Clemson, that Duke making two defensive backs miss at the same time. The only question surrounding Jefferson is his release at the line of scrimmage. Against bigger corners, he often gets dominated, and he doesn't take a first explosive 1 or 2 steps to get off the mark and create any space. And therefore, I think they'll potentially put bigger corners on him and just see what happens. But this could be something to work on as he gets into the NFL. This release at the line of scrimmage, but a general all-round wide receiver with good pace. At 17, I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to take K'Lavon Chaisson out of LSU. Situational edge rusher who can also play will linebacker due to his size in rotational sets. He's a good player with decent production in 2019 with over 10 tackles for loss and 6 sacks and over 60 tackles in total. However, a big red flag for scouts is that he missed all of the 2018 season due to an ACL tear, and obviously this is concerning when you're drafting a major position like defensive end for the future. Robert Quinn departed them last season, leaving with his 11.5 sacks to go to the Chicago Bears, and they really need to replace his production. I think K'Lavon Chaisson's swim moves and pace is unmatched for the defensive ends in this draft, but he doesn't quite possess that ball rush and the out-and-out power that other people have. Due to his size, he's a little bit underweight in comparison to the others. Maybe this is something that he could do as he goes in his NFL career, put on some more muscle, put on a few more pounds. But I think he could be an interesting pick for the Cowboys. Whoever the Dolphins are going to select at quarterback in this draft, they're going to need tackles to protect him. They've got 2 gaps at both tackles at the moment, and I think Tristan Wirfs is going to be there by the time they come to pick at number 18. I think he's going to slide a lot later than people are expecting, but he's a great athlete. He was part of the Iowa Hawkeyes O-line that was ranked 6th overall for college football in 2019, and he really is an all-round athlete. 24 bench press reps at the combine and a 4.8 second 40-yard dash that he ran. He also has the versatility to switch to left tackle. I think Miami Dolphins are getting a steal this late in the first round, and I think it'd be a really good pick for them. The number 19 pick belongs to the Las Vegas Raiders, courtesy of the Chicago Bears trade that they made for Khalil Mack. And I think that this pick, they're going to go for cornerback, and I think they're going to take Jalen Johnson off the board, the cornerback from Utah. He's a great player, made 102 tackles and 7 interceptions in his time at Utah, and he really is a workhorse, and then building a nice secondary at the Raiders with Abram, LaMarcus Joyner, Jeff Heath and Eli Apple, but they're just one cornerback short of having a really locked-down secondary. I think this is where Johnson comes in. He's a really good player. He's really aggressive at the line of scrimmage with the receivers, but sometimes he needs to trust his ability a little bit more instead of pulling and tugging at the receiver's jersey. And he also ball tracks a little bit too much. His eyes are on the ball too much, which obviously results in 7 interceptions for him, but sometimes there's too many completions that he should break up due to this over ball watching and putting himself in bad positions. Could be tested against quicker receivers like the likes of Henry Ruggs, for example, but overall he's a very solid pick at 19 for the Raiders. Number 20, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars on the clock, courtesy of their trade with the LA Rams for Jalen Ramsey. They've still got a need for a tackle, particularly a left tackle and a cornerback. And I think because of the depth of this cornerback class, I think they're going to look to tackle earlier on. So I think they're going to draft Josh Jones, the left tackle out of Houston. Quality player. He only allowed 1 sack all season in 2019. He's a great blindside protector, and it's what someone like Gardner Minshew or whoever the Jags bring in, Nick Foles, need as a blindside protector going into 2020. He's also a team captain at Houston and demonstrated great leadership to be appointed as one of these team captains for the season. And he's a good athlete all round, showing up well at the combine, which I think increased his draft stock quite a lot in comparison to other offensive tackles. He's quite similar to Andrew Thomas in the way that his hip movement and his feet movement is quite jerky, and misaligned, but overall he's a solid pick, especially when he's playing against slower defensive ends. The 21st pick of the draft belongs to the Philadelphia Eagles, and they are a very passionate set of fans, and Carson Wentz has split views amongst them about whether he's a good quarterback or not. But I think all the Eagles fans would agree he needs another target wide receiver, especially after trading Nelson Aguilar to the Raiders. So it might surprise you that I'm going with a linebacker instead. And I know the Eagles don't have a tradition of drafting linebackers in the first round, but I'm going to break that trend. I think they're going to go for Patrick Queen from LSU. He's a really good inside linebacker, and his pre-snap reads and positioning are outstanding. He's made over 100 tackles in his time at LSU with over 17 tackles for loss, and he really is an outstanding player of the future, similar to Deion Jones in the way that he positions himself and reads plays. And I think that he's going to be a player of the future for a Philadelphia Eagles linebacker core that is quite weak right now. And I think with the wide receiver depth in this draft, they could easily reach into the second round to grab a good wide receiver for Carson Wentz. The Minnesota Vikings have got an extra pick at number 22 because of their trade with the Buffalo Bills for Stephon Diggs. I think they're going to look to target an offensive tackle because they're looking very scarce there, and also they don't want any other offensive tackles to go off the board. So I think they're going to take Austin Jackson, left tackle from USC. They were graded the eighth highest pass to run ratio, and still he only allowed 6 sacks past him in 2018 and 19, and only 14 quarterback hurries in 2019. I just think this shows that he is a good prospect. I think there's a lot of tuning up that he could do. I think his balance needs a lot of work on these passing downs, but his run support, his run blocking, and his power is extremely good. And I think they're going to shift Kevin Zeitler inside to left guard and give Kirk Cousins the protection that he needs moving into 2020. New England Patriots are up at 23, and I think they're going to take AJ Epinesa off the board. He had a great career with Iowa Hawkeyes, racking up over 100 tackles, over 30 tackles for loss, and 26 sacks in his time with the Hawkeyes. These are such impressive stats, and I think he's a very similar build and type of player to Trey Flowers, who they no longer have, and I think Bill Belichick will want a like-for-like replacement. He has issues with his speed and mobility, and I think his combine performance actually reduced his draft stock quite a lot, as he was rumoured to be going around the top 16 or so, 15, 16 as the second edge rusher off the board. But I think K'Lavon Chasen's definitely overtaken him because we saw a lack of mobility in the 3-cone drill. However, I think he is a good, powerful bull rusher, as we've seen in the amount of sacks and tackle for losses that he's had, and his tackling ability is great, maybe making up for his lack of mobility. At 24, the New Orleans Saints are on the board, and I'm predicting that they're going to take Jordan Love, the quarterback from Utah State. I think they're going to sit the place behind Patriots and see what they do in regards to the quarterback situation. If they were to take Jordan Love off the board, I think they would take Jalen Hurts. They're happy to have one or the other without giving up any draft capital, which I think is a sensible idea. I think it's also a good idea to draft a quarterback this year, because it's Drew Brees' potential last year. He signed a provisional contract with NBC to commentate next season, and I think it is a win or bust season for New Orleans Saints. But to have that quarterback sat behind Drew Brees for a year learning his trade would be great, especially as Jordan Love's thrown for over 60 touchdowns, but 29 interceptions during his time at Utah State, and he has some problems reading defenses, especially when they're base aligned and they move around during the snap. He struggles to make the correct reads, and I think sitting behind Drew Brees for a year, watching how he does it, would certainly improve him and give their quarterback. So with Minnesota Vikings' actual pick, the 25th pick of the NFL draft, I think they're going to take Christian Fulton, the cornerback from LSU. Now, there's only limited tape to watch on Christian Fulton because he had a 2-year ban from the NCAA because he tried to use someone else's urine to avoid a drug test because he smoked marijuana, and he didn't want that to show up in the drugs test. But in his senior year, he showed the quality player that he could have been if he had stayed clean throughout his whole career. He's really good in man coverage, especially pressed. His skills are quality at sticking to receivers, and I think this is a solid pick for the Minnesota Vikings to potentially replace Xavier Rhodes going forward. The 26th pick of the NFL draft belongs to the Detroit Lions after that trade back that they did with Miami for the 3rd spot. And I think they're going to draft Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma Sooners. They don't have any linebacker that really stands out at the moment. They're all kind of bit piece players. And I think Kenneth Murray arguably has the most impressive stats to come out of college in his 40 games with the Sooners, racking up over 320 tackles, lots of tackles for losses, and he really is an all-round player at inside linebacker. He's got good hands, and he tends to blitz well. However, his reading of plays is sometimes a little bit iffy. Sometimes he overcommits to screenplays, etc., and sometimes he waits a little bit too long for them to develop and makes wrong decisions. But I think overall, on the whole, with nearly 10 sacks as well in his career with the Sooners, I think this is a very solid overall pick, and him and Okudah together on a Lions defence could completely transform it. At 27, I think Ezra Cleveland, the left tackle from Boise State, will be taken by the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks already have Dwayne Brown, but he had surgery last year. And Cleveland really is the all-round athlete. He ran a 4.93 at the Combine. He got 30 bench press reps, and he's shown himself to be really versatile throughout his career with Boise State. He played all 40 games, so he's got a clean bill of health so far, and he only allowed 12 quarterback hurries in 916 snaps in the 2019 season. And I think with Brown could potentially slide inside, or Seattle could have concerns over his long-term health, and therefore I think Cleveland is a good player to bring in to shore up that Seahawks O-line. Despite the fact that Russell Wilson can scramble, if he's got a good blindside protector, especially a young one that can be there for years to come, Russell won't have any problems. The Baltimore Ravens are on the clock at number 28, and I think they're going to select outside linebacker Zach Bourne from the Uni of Wisconsin. During his time at Uni of Wisconsin, in his 34 games, he recorded 150 tackles, 30 tackles for loss, and 15 sacks, with also 2 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles. I think that he's going to be a great addition for the Baltimore Ravens because he can line up on the edge in 3-4 sets, and he can play Sam linebacker in 4-3 downs in the Ravens' hybrid defense scheme. But a major question about Bourne is his fitness. He broke the same foot twice in 2017 and in 2018, and he's had surgery twice. What's his durability going to be like with bigger hits, bigger men in the NFL? We don't know that, but I think if Bourne could stay healthy, this is a good solid pick from the Ravens, someone to shore up that gap between the solid D-line and their secondary that they've got. I'm predicting Ross Blacklock, the defensive tackle from TCU, to the Tennessee Titans with the 29th pick of the NFL draft. He's a good player with power, size and the motor to continually make plays throughout games. He had good stats with over 60 tackles in his 20 games and 6 sacks for TCU. The question again with another defensive tackle is how is his durability going into the NFL? He's had an Achilles injury which he had surgery on, and his football IQ is a little low. He doesn't always read the screens and the blocks as well as other defensive tackles coming into this draft do. But overall, I think he's got all the tangibles that you want from a defensive tackle, and with a little bit of polishing, he could be a really solid product. With the 30th pick of the NFL draft, the Green Bay Packers select Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver from USC. I think this is a good pick because he brings a different option to the Green Bay Packers offense. He brings a vertical threat and a real catching wide receiver. He only had 1 drop for all of 2019. He's a real red zone threat with his height, and he wins a lot of contested catches. At the moment, Devontae Adams receives a lot of double teams, and Valdez-Scantlin's been underwhelming so far. And I think this deep wide receiver class, Green Bay Packers would be silly to not tap into to give Aaron Rodgers more options in offense before he goes and retires, because I think if Green Bay Packers are going to win a Super Bowl again, it needs to be before he retires. I'm projecting that Jeff Gladney, the cornerback from TCU, will be taken by the San Francisco 49ers in the 31st pick of the draft. The 49ers need more help at cornerback because they've got aging cornerback core such as Sherman, Verrett and others, and I think Gladney would be a real good addition. He's really quick, his flipping of his hips is also really smooth and fluid, he chases his feet well, and his ball hawk abilities have also improved year on year at TCU, and he ended up with 5 interceptions. He bullies the wide receiver at the line of scrimmage and sticks to them like glue because he's got top tier speed. However, to improve at the next level, he needs to be as dominant with the X receivers at the line of scrimmage because he lets them have too good a release at times. But I think this is a real good pick, adding youthfulness to an aging secondary. With the 32nd and final pick of round 1 of the NFL draft, I think the Kansas City Chiefs will draft Cesar Ruiz, interior offensive lineman from Michigan. Ruiz only allowed 8 QB hurries in 447 snaps, the lowest of any interior O-lineman according to PFF, and they graded him the highest for the season. He's widely on people's draft boards as the top interior offensive lineman coming into the draft, and I think he could shore up the Kansas City Chiefs O-line. They have great tackles in Eric Fisher and Mitch Schwartz, but they could do with a bit more help on the inside. Obviously, we all know how good a scrambler Mahomes is, but with a bit more protection, a bit more time in the pocket, he can unleash even more deadly throws. And on that note, just for me, if you've made it to this section of the video, thank you very much. I appreciate your support on my first ever YouTube video. I hope to see you around on the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content.
Now I'm on the outside.